What's up, guys? This is Xander Rose. Today we're going to be looking through the project file of my remix for Intrinsic by Oddmob, and I think we'll also go through the mixing file. I don't think much was changed in the mixing file, so we can afford to do both in the singular video. For those of you who haven't heard the track, I just previewed it during the intro there. You can listen to it in the description below, or just by checking out my recent videos on the channel, or by listening to it on SoundCloud, which I'll also put the link in down below so you can support it and help other people find it. If you like the song and you appreciate content like this, drop a like on the song itself or comment. And if you like this video, helps it get out to more people, including my own subscribers, because only like 10% of people who watch my videos are actually my subscribers. So, and you know, there's like 2,700 of you, and I'm not getting 2,700 views each video. So I want to make sure that everyone can see it by doing that. But that's enough of that. You might notice I'm this corporeal head here. It's because my new camera has still not arrived. I've been waiting for it, which will drastically increase my production value and actually help me make use of this green screen that's behind me. But because I do not have it here yet, I have the key similarity really high, which is making me look like this ghost demon thing. But I figured it's better than just seeing a green screen behind me with my video in the corner here. And this way I'm actually, even my head's not even blocking out more of the content, so that's kind of good. This remix, I had a pretty quick turnover. Oddmob released the stems and I got to work pretty fast on it. Here's the production file. Inspired by a lot of kind of modern Brazilian bass, like Sevenn style tracks, like his one low with Tiesto, that's probably the most popular one, as well as the Mala remix of Afterlife by Shami. That's kind of what inspired the drums. And so I did the drums first. We can take a listen to that. Let's take out, oh, by the way, I used the wet Vox from the original. Let me just mute everything here. And so the drums sound like this. So the main thing is the panning on these hats, and I used different hats for each. That was basically what I stole from that Mala Afterlife remix. Left, right, you know. So the center, left, right. If I can get my, nope, not this guy. I want my, here we go. And they're routed into, I believe this is just a perc bus. So you've seen this a million times in all the rest of my videos, but you know, my regular effects chain is for percussion is throwing into a sausage fattener with high color and low fatness, and then it's all low cut as well. And then just kind of regular fills throughout these kind of Mala style snare fills and little fills like that. Toms going on there. Other than that, I think I also like started putting in these effects, these little guys. So actually not that. These are vocal chops. So I probably put in these effects next. Kind of bass shots, effect shots. So the womp that's a sound I use a lot in a lot of my tracks. I usually have my FL bigger than this since my screen's a lot bigger, but it's this. It was based off of a tutorial I found about making like a Jaws one that actually sounds like, I think its envelope was like that. This is to make like a kind of a Jaws sound. But I always edit it to look like this to get that with the long attack on it, because I like that more. This is the clean one I made because the original one's a little dirtier if I find it. Where is it? Yeah, right here. Sounds like. This is the one I used in Drank, actually, way back when, but this is the one I use now. And then the next one is the Snake one. I believe it's from the Rhythm pack or mid-tempo pack from Evolution of Sound. Passing by effects. Has no tonality to it. And yeah, that's why it's nice going into that little fill there. And then the last one is this Pew Pew one, which was just a laser from one of the Evolution of Sound packs that I used. Effects video games. And I kind of like how it how it sounds. I put it in my laser pack. So and I think I put it at a low register as well. It's a nice spice kind of contrast compared to everything else going on. The drums are fairly constant throughout. There's not much going on with them other than that. They get, low passed and whatnot. During this section, let me turn off all this stuff. Also, this section is pretty bizarre. What's going on is, look at the tempo. I actually set it so that the tempo goes to exactly 1/2 of 124, which is 62, and slowly goes back up. And that's why everything is actually still on grid afterwards, because the way that the tempo worked out, it only delayed it by, I think, 2 beats exactly. So that's kind of cool. And then with these risers and effects. So in the radio edit that you hear, this intro isn't included, and it just starts at this kind of build-up thing. Now, in a video I made a long time ago, I explained how you can do these types of pitch automations that happen from tempo without messing with the length of your notes, or the length of your samples, I should say. This is only in more recent versions of FL. So this is something I learned from a lot of people mentioning it on that video, but you have to have a version of FL with stretch time mode. If you don't have it, then I have no idea how you can do this, but you need to have an updated version of FL in order to do this. The other thing I'll note is on these effects, I have a trick that I do a lot. Let me just turn this to line. If we solo out these guys on build-ups, I do this technique, which I'll talk about in its own video. It's these automation that are making them pan back and forth during the build-up. And it's kind of subtle when in the entire mix, but it has a really cool effect that makes each of those build-up elements stand out a bit more. And it's a really quick, easy technique you can do. So I recommend doing that. Like I said, I'll make my own video explaining how to do it in more detail, but that's definitely a great technique. So after I made the drums and kind of effects and stuff that I laid down, I focused on the bass after that. So let's just turn back on all the drums here. And I think the main thing that I took away from this was where to lay the MIDI for this type of genre. You'll notice pretty much like very, very few of the shots actually land on beat. And if I hadn't had the kick on while I was writing this bass line, I think it would have sounded weird. It kind of sounds like it's like not hitting properly, almost like a weird what's the term? Not staccato, but like there's kind of a weird element to it. So the way that I recommend working with Brazilian bass, and it's a sister genre of G house, so is to always have the kick on and then just delay your MIDI slightly more than you think. You know, if you want it to hit on the one, just put it right after one. Because if it was on the one, you know, let's say this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. If these were all on the one, it would sound like this. Let me just mute this. So that doesn't sound nearly as interesting. And one of the reasons why is because you lose the attack of the pluck, which is kind of the main thing that's interesting about Brazilian bass. You lose that hard attack of it because it's being side chained. So it doesn't sound as cool, but if you just move them over, then all of a sudden you get all this. You get to hear the first part of that synth. So it makes it sound a lot better, a lot more interesting. So I recommend that if you're struggling with a song, maybe just find some of the notes that are landing on beat and just shift them over slightly so that you can, especially if it's shorter, pluckier sounds and not these long sustained ones, so that they're not fighting with your kick and can bypass the side chaining that you should be doing. So with the additive, guys, it sounds like this. So the kind of pew pew effects ones, those, and the snake guy, I think I called it that because it sounds like a rattlesnake, are more playing off the drum fills, whereas the womp is actually filling the space in between these pluck hits to kind of suck into it, which I do a lot of times in my tracks. And let's look at the patch for this guy. So the first one is Boom, which is basically supposed to just sound like that Sevenn song. And I've changed a bit of the effects rack on it. I started getting really into using weird types of distortion on my synths. So alone, the patch sound. So for instance, if you used like a regular type of distortion, this is DO2. So if we went to, you know, the one that it's always, most people use is tube. It doesn't sound that spicy, but if we go to something like Rectify, which I like a lot, Asym I like a lot too, you can get a lot more interesting sounds. Even down sample, you might want to turn the drive and mix down. But you can get more interesting sounds by doing that. So DO2, it sounds like this, which is really like crushing it a lot, and I like that sound. And then this is the kind of top layer adding a click. Which is, you know, it's basically just like a very high-end attack to layer with it. So like without it, it sounds like this. With it. So it's pretty subtle in the mix, and with the sub, it sounds like. And the sub is the only sub you ever need, which I use on pretty much all my tracks. Again, a Zen World Evo sound with just a little bit of the mid-low turned up, pretty much nothing else changed. Now the processing on these, and this just has a regular kick start, and then I believe I'm also doing this trick that I learned very recently from my friends. Oh no, I'm actually not doing it, never mind. I think I do it in the mixing file, but I'll show that off later when we get to it. And then let's look at this in the mixer. We got sausage fattener, low, low, regular kickstart, and cutting the very low end for the sub to peek through. Let's see what's going on. This guy, also sausage fattened, low cut, and a high kickstart on it. And so actually, one thing to note is that while they actually have different side chains on them. So this guy's actually being side chained for more. You know, when I shifted it off of landing straight on the beat, this guy won't poke through as much as that very top end, which will get through entirely. So that's another way to add more attack, you know, to your basses so that they poke through the mix a bit more. Another thing that I did a lot of work with was the Vox for this, the vocal. So if we listen to that, here's the original. I basically didn't do any processing on it. And then here's the other vocal. Sounds like this. Again, pretty much no processing on it. Except we do see, you know, I had this kickstart automated, which does this during the B section of the drop. Looks like this. That added some rhythm to play off the basses. I just screwed around to find that that's what I wanted. But let's talk about these chops going on here. Do. So it's actually the main vocal that I played in its entirety before I put into this vocal slicer, got the little bits and pieces that I liked, and then that's what I ended up using. So if we listen to the full thing. So there's a bunch of slices here that I didn't end up using, right? I just picked out the ones that I liked by going through. So there's a bunch of useless ones like this, and there's no point in using them. And then I made the rhythm off of that. And that's going into a very large effects chain. So let's listen to all this stuff. Sounding like, here, let's just highlight all this guy. So first we have it sausage fattened. High color for compression. Widened out. This is a free plugin, by the way. Low cut. The same rhythmic sidechain, and then just a regular sidechain to make sure that there's absolutely no, because this doesn't quite take out all the stuff in the beginning. And then this fruity delay, I believe, is just added in certain parts, like here. So it's kind of like a delay throw to fill out these little areas after this guy. And when it pairs in the drop with this guy, it sounds really cool. And then the second drop, I believe I put it down an octave. I think it's in here. Yeah, so also one thing I noticed is that the MIDI is also different. So here it's a bit more sparse, that you can focus on the basses. In this C section, so this was kind of the original rhythm I had, and my friend gave me some feedback that I should make it a bit more sparse to kind of make the bass highlight more in the A section. And then what I did here was I layered it with itself, but an octave lower. So if we go here, we can see that. And all you have to do that is set the range here to 12 and throw the pitch all the way down. And there's no, pretty much nothing else you need to do. So if we listen to that soloed. Doesn't sound like, it doesn't retain a lot of the quality, like it degrades the quality of the vocal slightly when you do that. But with layered on top, sounds fine. And then the other thing I did was I put on another free plugin, which is this M Auto Pitch. And I think I tried shifting the formant here. I ended up only doing it very, very slightly up. But if you change this, it'll basically change the quality of the vocal where the formant is. If you wanted to change, if it sounded more feminine or masculine, basically. And then the other thing that's going on is I started panning the vocal for when they're layered on top of each other, so that one is panned left and one's panned right. Other than that, basically in terms of the structuring of the vocal throughout, it's the sparse version of it in the A section, then just the B vocal, then them layered with the kind of heightened amount. Then it's the sparse again, but instead of going into this B vocal, going into the full version layered with an octave lower, then going into that layered with the B vocal on top. So it kind of changes up the structure, so it's not the exact same both times, and kind of keeps the interest there. So lots going on for the vocal, lots going on with the bass in this track, which I think is what makes it kind of so interesting and unique. And then the final parts are this atmosphere, which has basically no processing on it other than being low cut in the low cut bus. Okay, let's take a look at that patch. Yeah, very simple saw and sine with distortion on it, I'd assume, and different effects on it. Didn't really change this at all. That's probably one of the last additions. And then the pad and Medusa stabs. So kind of a very deep respace going on here. Where's the pad? Just doing 2 notes. Yeah, this Reese pad. And then these Medusa kind of plucks at the top. Which are barely noticeable, and there's pretty much no processing on them. And all that adds up to this really fun, interesting drop. This as well, I want to shout out Phase Shift, my friends over there. They're the ones who gave me the tip about the vocal. They also recommended doing this. Yeah, so let's take a look now at the mixing file. And like I said, I don't think I did a whole lot of mixing on this track. Most of them are empty. Yeah, so really just some reverb and more compression through Sound Goodizer and Sausage Fattener. And then let me see if I did the trick I was mentioning. Yes, I did. Okay, so the kick and the bass. This is a trick that I learned from Ratman and Bobbin, who make really good music. I recommend you guys listen to them. So here's the sub and the kick. And if we look at them, it's this kick and this sub over here. And let's turn this Maximus off. Sounds like this. With it on. Just got way more powerful, right? So what it is just compressing, multiband compressing just the low end together. So if we solo it, compression off, compression on, and then taking the post down to maintain the volume. This curve going up like this is telling it that if it inputs, let's say at this level, which is about -18, it's gonna go up to -9. So it's actually doubling the gain. So this is doing what, instead of downwards compression, this is actually upwards compression in multiband compression. And so we're upwardsly compressing the low volumes and then reducing the overall gain to match. So it's peaking at the same amount, but it will overall be louder. And then leaving the rest of the bands the same. And so that basically what that does is, because we routed our sub and our kick into it, it'll make the low end of them feel more glued together. It'll make them a more constant volume of the sub levels. So that's a really interesting trick. Basically, I would just pump this up until you start hearing distortion or just a moderate amount, and then start lowering the post so that they retain the same level. And that's basically all the mixing I did on this track, but really cool tip that I just learned. So recommend doing it in your guys' track. The master is the same as the master technique that I've been doing on all these tracks. So if you're interested in hearing about that, I believe I have a video specifically about mastering, but you can check out any of the other videos I've done that mention mastering and find it there. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more breakdowns like this, you appreciate them, leave a like on the video and comment down below. Share it with a friend who is trying to learn to produce in these weird times. I'm sure that they would appreciate it. And without further ado, happy dancing.